Hey everyone, welcome. As many of you guys know, when I rebuilt my Yeti Arc hardtail last year, I've used a mix of components starting with that T-type crankset with the absolute black oval chainring. But then when it came to the shifting bits, I chose to go with the Wheeltop EDX OX, their mountain bike upgrade kit. That was about a year ago, and since then they've introduced the EDX TX. So this is the road version of that upgrade kit. Then they introduced the gravel, so the one by the GEX that I reviewed on my channel not too long ago. But this year, in 2025, they've introduced version 2 of that EDX OX. Let's take a closer look and see how it is different from the version 1 that I've used all this time. And I think it's important for us that a company like Wheeltop continues to put work on their group sets, especially in the context of SRAM trying to phase out the upgrade kits, the Access group sets that we used to find everywhere. They probably want to move us to T-type or full mount derailleurs ASAP. A second reason I think this is important to have is because these group sets, they actually work on any bike you might have. They don't require a special derailleur hanger, and they're compatible with any gear system you might have from 3 to 14 speeds. My experience with the EDS, the original OX, has been great. We did use this group set in all kind of conditions, and shifting has been very good. Also, interestingly, this seems to be quieter than the GX Access equivalent that I have on my Santa Cruz. And finally, in using the original with the pre-installed battery, non-removable, that battery actually lasts quite a bit. 3, 4, 5 rides and my battery was still at 70%. So excited to take a look at the OX 2.0 and see what it brings to the table. So I have the GX, this is the gravel group set, the new OX, and this is the old OX. That right here on the cover has 3 variants. That was the long, medium, short cage derailleur options. If you move over to GX, and that is identical with our new OX version 2, these two only have a long cage and a medium cage. That's 75 millimeters. This is 93 millimeters. No more short cage option for these newer derailleurs. If you remove the fancy sleeve, you're gonna get to the contents, which is this piece of plastic that tells you congrats, then sends you to their website and to the App Store to download the Wheeltop app. And here's your kit that starts with a 2 meter or 80 inches charger cable. Then is the shifter and obviously the derailleur. This won't work straight out of the box because the derailleur is dormant. To wake it up, you are gonna have to actually plug it in to charge. Plug it in is a way of saying because you have here on the inside the rubber cover. And if you remember, they use this magnetic 2-prong charger cable. That LED would be lit, and that means that not only that you're charging the battery of the derailleur, which they recommend from the get-go, but also means that you woke this up. Next to the old derailleur, you can see the design changes right away. This looks a bit more premium. You have what they call the shark fin design here of the battery. Battery that definitely seems to be smaller than the previous one. You see the charging port of the previous generation here. This one is on the inside. And overall, the old one looks bulkier, whereas the new one seems to be longer. And here is that same OX, so mountain bike, next to the GEX, which is the gravel component. Now, I'm sure there are some minor differences maybe in software or the way this will perform, but from a pure physical standpoint, this seems to be that exact derailleur, the GEX, now with a new logo. That's not necessarily a bad thing because this derailleur actually introduced some interesting changes. And because I know you guys are going to ask me about weights, here is the shifter with the bar clamp. That's 69 grams, pretty much the weight of the old Axis shifter. You're looking at the OX derailleur version 2. This is 408 grams. By the way, this is identical with GEX, which is 410. And in comparison, you see the old version 1 OX at 391 grams and the GX Axis equivalent being a bit heavier than that. So what kind of advancements are we talking about on this derailleur? Well, the first one would be right here under this cap. And you're gonna need a 1.5 millimeter Allen key to actually remove that tiny bolt that holds this in place. Just pay attention when you remove this because there is a tiny O-ring. You don't want to lose it. And as soon as you do that, this cover slides forward and it reveals a couple of things. Number one, this is the limiter screw for highest gear or the smallest cog. And two, this is an actual, they call it a damper, mechanical damper. Think about the clutches that you have in something like a Shimano derailleur. That's a clutch. They call this a damper, but now we have this and we have the ability to adjust it by just tightening or loosening that bolt. And if you're wondering about sealing this compartment, something that Shimano definitely does with their clutches, this is only sealed by, I guess, this plastic sliding over. However, if you look on their website, you're gonna see some of the testing that they do, telling us that this won't be affected by the elements while riding. Just like with version 1, you have 12-tooth jockey wheels. That would be the guide pulley. Interestingly, the tension pulley, which is the one at the bottom on the old derailleur, was a 14-tooth. The new one is a 12-tooth. If you look at the GX, so that's the gravel one. The gravel has the same, so they really wanted to keep these two derailleurs identical. However, if you look on, again, this is the version 1 with the bigger pulley at the bottom, and you look at what SRAM does with their Eagle. They use the same thing, a bigger pulley at the bottom, the 14 tooth, 12 at the top. I don't think that makes such a big difference. If you look at the Shimano, they use 12 tooth at the bottom, so they are the same size. And finally, here's the reveal. Version 1 next to version 2. Like I said, this one seems to be bulky, definitely a bigger, bulkier battery, even though the capacity is the same. On the new one, the shark fin design, and this one seemed to be longer overall. I'm sure it's not. You have the same cage length, and if anything, this one has a bit more convoluted way of adjusting it with the one limiter screw here, one over there. On this one, this was very classic, very similar to a SRAM GX if you want, where you have all the settings on the outside. There's no covers here, there's no clutch here, remember that. Now side by side, and yes, the shifter pod comes prepared with the derailleur. They're no different when it comes to simple shifting. Now press and hold. You can see them going down all the way down. This is the new pod. This is the old pod. Can you tell the difference? And the truth is that it's close to impossible from the front to tell the difference. If you look here at the bottom, the new one has a QR code on it. However, if you flip this over, you're gonna see the same battery cover, CR2032. And this is where the difference is. You see the new shifter has this button that allows you to do the micro adjustments. This is rubbery and it looks to be weather sealed. This one was a slider button. that I assume it wasn't as well weather sealed, and that's why they're saying probably that this is IP67 certified, which is a better IP rating than the old one. Otherwise, functionality is the same as you saw, buttons are the same, you can change this in the app and make any other configuration changes just like before. Now, the Wheeltop app is not really necessary to get this drivetrain installed. However, I would highly recommend you download it at least to do the firmware upgrades, if nothing else. As for the installation of this upgrade kit is super simple, but I do have a full video. I'm gonna link it up in the corner to make sure that you guys get it right. But I do have a couple of recommendations for you guys when installing this new derailleur. First, remember to remove that cover because you're gonna need access to that limit screw that's right under the cover. You're gonna use a 2mm hex key and adjust that so it's out of the way. Realistically, you wanna make sure that those mechanical limit screws are out of the way, because the initial calibration, as usual, you're gonna do it electronically. Now remember, this new shifter has a button here on the back, and if you hold that down for like 5 seconds, it puts the shifter into the micro adjust mode. To be honest with you, I would highly recommend to just grab your phone and just download the Wheeltop app. Make sure that the system is set up for the cassette that you have installed. In my case, it's 12 speed. And then you go on that initial calibration tab and you're gonna adjust that first gear on your system. Once that's set up properly, then the rest of the system should work fine. You can see my drivetrain, which is a SRAM Eagle 12 speed, 10 to 50 tooth cassette, working just fine up and down the cassette. If anything, shifting down the cassette, it's a bit slow, so I would use the micro adjust to fine tune that. And also remember that the B gap adjustment is necessary for this type of derailleur. This is not T-type from SRAM. Remember, I have a full video telling you how to do this, so I don't want to get into too much details here. One last thing though, before you put that cover back on, remember to adjust that damper to your liking. You're probably gonna need like a 1/8 of a turn, no more, when making adjustments, and you're gonna need an 8mm socket to accomplish this. Man, that was a long video, a lot to talk about. So, should we call these derailleurs new and improved versus the old one, version 1? Again, I was happy with this. I assume I'm gonna be even happier with this one that has the damper. Also, functionality-wise, everything was kept. You can still micro adjust each and every gear with these derailleurs. Remember those older Eagle cassettes that always had 1 or 2 cogs that were noisy? Well, with this, you can adjust it. That micro adjust of the Wheeltop app is the key to success. Battery, this battery is almost 3 times bigger than the tiny Axis battery. They talk about the 20,000 actuations before it's depleted. I only charged it when I remembered it, probably once a month, and I was always fine. And finally, you can get these new derailleurs connected to your Garmin. So if you want to see on the screen the gear that you're in, the battery charge and things like that, the new N+ chipset in these derailleurs allows you to just connect easily. Shifter works okay. For me, this is something that can always be improved in terms of ergonomics. It works fine. I like the clickety click here is pretty solid. It's pretty obvious when you're shifting your gears. But other than that, I'm curious what you guys think. Would you consider buying one of these alternatives to SRAM right now? If not for mountain biking, what about road or gravel that also come with brakes? Do you have any questions for me? Let me know in the comments below. I hope you guys found this useful. Remember, I have a ton of videos about these. I'm gonna post them in the description of the video. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and until next time, hope to see you folks on the trails. Cheers, guys. Cheers.